Good morning. Today is the 15th of Tevis and the 9th of January. Is it 9th? No, it can't be the 9th. It's the 8th.
The 8th.
January 8th.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
You never find messy with me.
Okay. So let's look at the end of this Sikha for Vayechi, which we are wrapping up today, God willing. And we're going to have to decide what and if we do tomorrow. And on Tuesday, I am leaving for 10 days to Los Angeles. And if you want to see me there, not you won't be able to see me there, but if you live in Los Angeles, you want to see me there, or you live anywhere near, you can come. So just text me, and I will send you a link with my full schedule. Okay, so we're now going to wrap up the Sikha. We were up to the sweetening. The sweetening is also by Asher. Remember, we explained Chashmal Mal, that there are one stage of quiet, and then Mal, circumcision or separation, and then the other Mal is to speak, or sweetening. The reason it's called sweetening is usually when we think about the future is sweet. That's the way a Jew has to think. If a Jew doesn't think that the future is sweet, then he's missing a very basic foundation in what it means to be a Jew. Because a Jew is always optimistic. He's always looking at the future and saying, the future will be sweet. And what is the sweetness of the future? That God will reveal more of himself, what we call the substance of himself. And that itself is a tremendous sweetness in reality. It sweetens everything that was difficult. Like the Rebbe used to say, that Otcha Hashem ki anafta bi, that it will be so sweet that I will be able to come and say, I thank you for all the times that were difficult. That all the times that were difficult make sense now. And they all led up to this tremendous sweetness, this tremendous revelation. So whenever we talk about sweetening, the last stage of the Baal Shem Tov's three-stage process, submission, separation, and sweetening, we're talking about something in terms of reward, in terms of the future, something like that. So says the Rebbe here on page 96, chapter 15. ביחס השכר הניתן לעבודה של אשר נאמר במדרש של פרשתנו מאשר שמנה לחמו שהוא מעמיד בגדי שמונה. The sages say another different interpretation for the oil that he has or the fatness of his bread, that the word fatness or oil also means 8, the same word. Why is it? Well, when you look at the number 8, it's pretty fat. It's the fattest number, I think, out there. It's more fat than 1, certainly. And it's even fatter than 6. For some reason it looks fat. Why is it fat? Because it's above 7. It's after 7. 7 is nature. And Shmona literally means fat in Hebrew. Shemen is the oil, the fat. But Shmona means that it's above nature. So there's a fatness there. There's something that's beyond. I had to explain last week why oil symbolizes wisdom, which was what we saw in the first part of the Sikha. So I said oil symbolizes wisdom because wisdom is beyond understanding. Understanding is the common sense that people have. But wisdom is already something that comes from above. It's beyond the normal. It's beyond the natural. So here the sages say that the tribe of Asher, will be the foundation for 8 articles of clothing. Who wears 8 articles of clothing? The high priest. So what is the foundation of the home? His daughters will be wed to the high priests that wear 8 articles of clothing. So now the question, says the Rebbe, why do they have to be beautiful girls in order to be married to a high priest? So we can't say that beauty here is physical beauty, because that's not what the foundation of a priestly house was. So we have to say that the beauty here, noi, is the type of beauty that is related to the high priesthood. So he's going to explain a few things about beauty. העניין של אישה הוא אעשה לו עזר כנגדו, סיוע לו בעל בעבודתו את השם, דבר שאנו מוצאים אותו במיוחד לגבי הכהן הקדוש, עבודתו ביום הכיפורים לפני ובפנימה, היה חשוב העניין של וכיפר בעדו ועד ביתו, זו אשתו, בלעדיו לא היה באפשרותו לעשות עבודתו. The true purpose of a woman is to be, as God said, Eselo Ezer Kenado, to be a helpmate for him, to help her husband fulfill his duties to Hashem, to God. And this is especially true about the high priest, who, when he went into the Holy of Holies and his whole work on Yom Kippur, was dependent on his wife. Right? They used to say that behind every successful man, there's a woman standing confused. How did he get there? Right? Something like that. Or they used to say behind every, well, I won't, there's a lot of these on the same. The true beauty of a Jewish woman is her honor inwards. The modesty, which is what founds and what helps the high priest do his work. We said, how do you reach this stage? We said again, he says here, you reach that. This willingness to support comes from the way the daughter sees her father. That the father acts entirely accordingly to Shulchan Aruch, according to the commandments. When she sees his dedication, his obligation to what was told to him, so she accepts her obligation as well. You can't expect someone to. You can't say to someone, "Be modest," and not. And you have to set an example. Inyan tzniut, modesty, inyan tzniut, zocha להקים דור ישרים שבנים ובני בנים עוסקים בתורה ומצווה. כהנים גדולים, כלומר בנים הנכנסים לקודשי הקודשים, שם נמצא רק הארון והלוחות עליהם חקוקות 10 הדיברות, לא שהן כתובות בדיו שהוא דבר שנוסף לכתב, כי אם חקוקות לגבי הלוחות, כך שהוא והתורה הם דבר אחד. So by having this ability to receive the yoke of heaven, we're talking about 3 stages of receiving the yoke of heaven, except here we see the reward in it. What is the reward? That your children follow the Torah just as you do. And not only that, but you have offspring who go into the Holy of Holies where the ark is, in which are the tablets on which the law of Hashem is written, chiseled in. It's not just written with something additional with ink, like saying that by you it's not something additional. The children don't feel that, oh, he also does this. He's also observant. No, that becomes the essence of who you are when you have Kabbalat Torah, when you have this ability to take on the yoke of heaven. And when it's chiseled in you through and through, then the children feel and do the same thing. So there's really, there's a lot to be said about that. Because sometimes you see a father who's who's chiseled. There's almost no question that he's chiseled. And the children are not. They don't want to follow. But without fail, if you go now into how this person understands Torah and mitzvos, you'll see that there is something that he's doing for his benefit. And the children pick up on this. It's either he or his wife or together, that the children see that they are not 100% chiseled. Rather, they have some
ulterior motive.
They have an ulterior motive. It could be parnasa, it could be something else. That they're doing it for some reason, which is, by the way, one of the biggest problems with kollels. It's not the greatest chinuch method. Because when you teach your children that you make money from Torah, so it's not that it's forbidden, it's completely accepted.
You go to college in order not to go to the army.
That's even worse. But I'm saying that let's say you do it just for parnasa. You have to make sure that you never that you never feel that way, even though it's permitted, because otherwise it won't be scholars. But the feeling what you have to show all the time is the love that you have for the Torah, and not that you're dependent on it for your parnasa. In any case, לאור האמור יובן הנאמר קודם לכן בפסוק ברוך מבנים אשר, רש"י מצטט את הספרי אין לך בכל השבטים שברך בבנים כאשר, רש"י מאיר ואיני יודע כיצד. So Rashi says about the previous verse about Asher that he is blessed with children. And Rashi says, I don't know how. How was he blessed with children? רש"י אומר, ואני יודע כיצד, משום שבמניין בני ישראל לא מוצאים בשבט אשר מספר גדול יותר משאר השבטים. The reason Rashi says, I don't know how he was blessed, is because you don't find that they were overly populous, the tribe of Asher. So what do you mean they were blessed with children? יש להסביר את דברי הספרי, על פי מאמר הז"ל, שקול זה כנגד, ששקול הוא כנגד כל שאר השבטים בסגולותיו מיוחדות הנמצאות בו. So you have to say that we're not talking about quantity, we're talking about quality. So they were blessed in terms of the quality, not in terms of the numbers. In this case, the offspring that they had tremendous nachas from them. They had tremendous joy in seeing their offspring. בהתנהגות שקבלת עול בחינוך באופן האמור, זוכים לצאצאים ההולכים בדרכי התורה, המצוות, ורובים הם נחת במידה רבה, פי כמה מאשר מצאצאים רבים. So if you follow the Torah with accepting the yoke of heaven, without doubting it, and doing it as an obligation, then you merit to see tremendous joy from all your offspring, and the joy is so great that it's more than you would get from even having more. Now, to say that today to people, when people hardly have children, you have to explain to them to begin with why there's joy in having offspring. The real reason that they don't have offspring is because, we won't say it's because that they're egocentric and they don't want to give to someone else. They do. The real reason is that the media and the atmosphere in the world is that everything is getting worse. And like we said, a Jew starts off with the fact that the world is sweet, and it will only get sweeter, it will only get better. It doesn't matter, even if you have troubles along the way, that's not the point. The point is, faith, by definition, means that I know that things are going to be sweet, because the redemption is going to be sweet, the Mashiach coming is going to be sweet, all these things are sweet. When you have that feeling, that optimism in you, then of course you want to have children, and you want to receive joy from them, because you also know that you're going to. That's how you look at life. You can't have children really if everybody's feeding you all the time that the end of the world is near and Armageddon's going to happen and we're all going to cook to death on it because of the sun or something, some other ridiculous nonsense. That is what destroys the humankind.
There's an amazing story about Moshe Feinstein in the leader of the Eastern Group. You know that story?
In the middle of?
Moshe Feinstein and the leader of the Eastern Group.
Okay.
Moshe Feinstein came to Israel once.
Okay.
One day.
Yeah.
And he was flying back to America. And when Moshe Feinstein was flying back to America, he flew back El Al first class. And there was a guy, the Yeshiv Rosh, the leader of the Histadrut.
The unions.
The unions. So about every 10 minutes, some girl comes into the first class compartment and says to Ed Moshe, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you want anything? Da, 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 da. So after a couple of hours, the leader of the Histadrut says, tell me, who's this girl who keeps coming in and asking you, what do you want? Who is she? She says, my granddaughter. She says, well, that's an amazing coincidence. How could it be that your granddaughter's on the same flight as you? So he said, no, we organized it. One granddaughter flew with me, and another granddaughter's flying back with me. She says, wow, he says, in my world, we see our grandchildren twice a year. Erev Pesach, to eat a piece of matzah together before the Seder, and Erev Yom Kippur to say hello and goodbye. So he says, and you see your granddaughter twice? No, he says, I see my grandchildren every day. He says, well, how is that possible? How is that possible? So the Moshe explained to him, the difference between us and you is that your grandchildren look at someone who's a little bit closer to a monkey than they are. My grandchildren look at us and see someone who's a little bit closer to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's what it's all about.
That's what gives a feeling of we're moving forward. We're not going back. Anyway, in any case. בכך מובן נאמר והרבה את זרעו ויתן לו את יצחק כבוד קדושת עמו מרשיו שואל נאמר והרבה את זרעו והסיום בבן יחיד ביצחק אך העניין הוא לפי המוסבר שייתכן same thing as by when God promised Abraham to have many offspring and then he had one, just Isaac. It says but from Isaac what you had was infinitely more joy than you would have had from an army of offspring. In any case, right. הקשר בין הזכות לבנים טובים לבין העבודה בקבלת העול יובן לפי האמור במדרש שלפני מתן תורה דרש הקדוש ברוך הוא בני ישראל ערבות לקיום התורה. בני ישראל הציעו ערבים שונים והקדוש ברוך הוא לא קיבלם עד שאמרו בני ישראל בנינו ערבים בעדינו. Before God was willing to give us the Torah, he wanted collateral. The collateral that he accepted in the end was our children. They would be the collateral for us receiving the Torah. If we didn't keep it, we'd have to give back our children, as it were. הסבר הדברים, בשנות חיי האדם מצויות דרגות שונות בין 5 למקרא כפי שמפורטות במשנה באבות פרק ה' עד הדרגת שלמות המוחין המופיעה בגיל 20 שנה כפי שיודעים. ההבדלים בין 6, בין 13 ובין 20 וגם לאחר גיל 20 קיימות דרגות רבות. תינוקות של בן רבן הם בבחינת רגל. מאחר שכל ישראל הם קומה אחת שלמה, הרי כשם שבכל אחד מעמיד הרגל את הראש, כן ברוחניות מחזיקה קבלת העול את ההשגה, כך גם בכלל ישראל הרגליים מועילות לראש. So he says, as you go through the stages of life and you develop, you go from being a child who can only learn Chumash until the final state of your mind, which is at the age of 20. So what are you in the beginning? In the beginning, you're like the feet on which everything stands. If you don't learn Chumash in the beginning, you can't understand what comes next. So since the entire Jewish people are like one figure, one body, one stature, here too, the children that are learning Chumash, that they're like the feet, the foundation of their own lives, are also the foundation of the entire people. The same way that we explained in the beginning of this Sikha, that the tribe of Dan was like the feet. We said these months are the left foot and the right foot, Tevet and Shvat, and they are what hold up the entire body of the people. כך גם במתן תורה, מתן תורה לכל ישראל הופשר רק על ידי ערבות תינוקות של בית רבן, לפי שתינוקות של בית רבן, בחינת רגל, הם יסוד כל עם ישראל, לפי שהמדרש האמור מסיים מפי עוללים ויונקים משאת העוז. לפי זה אפשר להסביר את הקשר בין בנים טובים לבין קבלת עול, שכן שניהם בבחינת רגל, כאמור לפיכך זוכים על ידי התנהגות של קבלת עול לבנים ובני בנים, עוסקים בתורה ומצוות. So what happened was that just as they held up the entire people to receive the Torah, so they become the foundation as we move on until the point where when we accept the Torah the way that we accepted it in Mount Sinai, Na'aseh v'nishma, and the children are the collateral, they are like ensuring that we do it the right way, like we said before, that can't have ulterior motives. The moment you have ulterior motives, they're sensitive to it, they feel it. When you do it out of Kabbalat Torah, when you do it out of an obligation, then they too are blessed as the foundation upon which everything stands, and they themselves continue and become, and they are raised to become the ones who carry on the same obligation in the next generation. So that's the sweetening. Sweetening, again, is the reward that you receive from having obligation, from having accepted the yoke of heaven, which appears in your children. And your children also follow in the same path. And tomorrow we'll have to decide what we're doing now, because we finished the Kodei Sichot. We actually did one Sichot more. We went over Vayichi a second time. It's okay because we wanted to finish with Shmot. And we'll meet again tomorrow.